Welcome, 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 Unhidden Voices family. Thanks you for joining us tonight for our talk on Black Girl Magic and the inauguration. So very excited to be here with all of you. If you are joining us, drop your name in the chat so we know that you're here and say hello. And I have a question for you that I found on Twitter, and that was someone tweeted oatmeal or cream of wheat. So tell us, what's your favorite? Is it oatmeal or cream of wheat? And that'll be our way of shouting each other out to know that you're here. I actually initially said oatmeal, and then I remembered that my stepdad, Julian, used to make porridge out of cream of wheat. And it wasn't just any plain old cream of wheat with water. It was milk, water, condensed milk, brown sugar, vanilla, butter, nutmeg, and cinnamon. Now that was some great cream of wheat. Oh, Sadiq's gonna say oatmeal. Well, you haven't had porridge from Julian style. If you had some Julian's oatmeal, I think you might change your mind. So thank you for joining us tonight. We have a lot that we're going to get into. We're going to be talking about the inauguration, but before we get started, of course, we have to do some shout outs. We have to talk about what's going on in the news. And I want to give us an opportunity to remind you that if you like our podcast, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you'll get an opportunity for us to know that you're here, and you'll hear about other lives that we're doing. We're going to be doing these lives at the end of every month. Also, I want you to follow us on Instagram TV because we will be sharing specific excerpts from our lives there, and we also will be sharing just different things that we're doing in Unhidden Voices. So if you haven't already, just follow us on Instagram. So I can't start today without doing a special birthday shout out to. So I have two children who are born in January. My eldest daughter, Leilani, his birthday is January 14th, and she just turned 29. And she celebrated this past weekend by going. She's in Colorado, stationed in Colorado, and she actually went down tubing down the mountain and with my grandson, and she was sharing some wonderful pictures of them, and it was just a wonderful time. And so happy birthday to Leilani. Happy birthday to Leilani. And then Sadiq is also born in January, and he just celebrated his 24th birthday. And so happy birthday, Sadiq. We did celebrate on his actual birthday, but I think it was just such a wonderful moment, and we actually had a chance to spend some time with him, and we watched the new film One Night in Miami together. And Sadiq actually shares a birthday with Sam Cooke. So I thought it would be nice to celebrate, to begin today with just a little moment. So we're just going to hear from Sam Cooke. Yeah. Oh, and just like the river I've been running, it's been long, a long time coming, but I know change won't come. Oh, yes, it will. To die. Yeah, this is just, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful song. And Sam Cooke, his voice is just phenomenal. And I didn't know, my dad told me about him. And of course, I heard the song when I was growing up as a kid. And he also told me that the weird and sad way and tragic way in which Sam Cooke died. But watching one night in Miami, I think was just a wonderful opportunity because it provided a glimpse into these four men and the brotherhood. And so the story is that it's the night that Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston in the fight, and it's Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Malcolm X. And the four of these men are supposed to have spent the night just talking and talking about their different philosophies and learning a little bit more about them. And what one aspect, two things that kind of stood out for me in this film that I really appreciated. One was the brotherhood and just the focus on that and the opportunity to see what that could have been like possibly. And then another piece of it was the artistry. And I think for me, one of the things I did not know, and I've read, a lot about Malcolm X and listened to his speeches and stuff, but I didn't know that he was actually a photographer. And that was one of his hobbies. I didn't know that until watching this film, and they revealed that, and then I actually saw some of his some actual photographs of him with a film camera, and that was such a humanizing thing. Just to know that that was one aspect of him, his identity that we don't really hear about. And I think that some folks didn't really like the movie because of the vulnerability. You see the person who plays Malcolm X's character cry, and that was hard, I think, for people to grapple with because we never see him cry. But I thought it was just a humanizing moment, and obviously some artistic license was there. But one of the things I can also say is Regina King did say that she did speak with all of the families of the four men who are depicted in the film. So I recommend it, and I'll give a shout out to that film. The other shout out that we have to give is to Hank Aaron. So, if those of you who may be fans of baseball might be aware that Hank Aaron passed away very recently. I think in the past couple of days. He was nicknamed Hammering Hank. He actually grew up during segregated ball, so he actually played Negro ball before he became a part of the major leagues. And then in the 1970s, Hammering Hank broke Babe Ruth's record. And his record for the hitting the most home runs actually lasted for 3 decades afterwards. So we have just this little video that we're going to watch.
Across this country, the nation celebrating the life of Hall of Famer Hank Aaron, a rare legend among legends. He became baseball's home run king, the first to break Babe Ruth's record, the champion of civil rights on and off the field. Here's Steve Osensami.
He will forever be remembered for this mighty swing.
Straight away. For the high drive at the deep left center field. Buster goes back to the fence.
That helped replace a white man with a black man in the record books. This was the call that night in Georgia in 1974 when Hank Aaron slugged his way past the legendary Babe Ruth with 715 career home runs, and his record of 755 would stand for 30 long years.
A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South for breaking a record of an all-time baseball idol.
But it needs to be said that Hank Aaron overcame a whole lot more than a baseball record. He was heckled by racist white fans and players. People were promising to kidnap his children, and the death threats came pouring in the mail.
I couldn't open the letter for months. They had to be opened by the FBI or somebody else, I couldn't let that stand in my way.
Henry Louis Aaron grew up poor in Alabama, where he had to make his own baseball bats with tree limbs. It was when black athletes were lucky if they could make it to the Negro Leagues, which were separate and certainly not equal to the majors.
I played with some ball players that knew how to play the game, and they taught me an awful lot.
I think it's so important for us to just recognize the greatness and the history and the contribution and the sacrifice that a lot of these folks have made for us. And I think that's really important. And it speaks so much when you consider just such a this part of history that someone like Hank Aaron, who was born in 1934, Hank Aaron was born the year after my father was born. And folks who were born in the 1930s, their grandparents and their great-grandparents were enslaved. And so I think that's really, if we think about the historical moment that we're in and the sacrifices that these folks have made for us, it's just a profound gratitude that we have to share, because there is nothing like being in a situation where your life is put in danger because you're doing what you love, you're doing your job, you're doing sports, and they could not stand to actually have someone like Hank Aaron beat Babe Ruth. No, how can a black man be that successful? That can't be. So they didn't want that to stand. And it reminds me again, circling back to Sam Cooke, a change is going to come, right? So a change is going to come, and we have seen some change, and we have seen that, and we have to acknowledge that, but we have to continue to fight. So it's not a situation where we can ever rest on our laurels or think that we've made so many achievements that we cannot continue to push forward and to press up against the pain and the racism, the anti-blackness, the hate, all of it. We have to continue to press forward and continue to strive and continue to reach for our dreams. And that's so very important. So thank you to Hank Aaron for the sacrifices that you made for our people. And now just want to talk a little bit about the news, because we have an impeached president, and today the House of Representatives walked the article of impeachment to the Senate, and Congressman Rankin read it out loud. It's like, this is what he did. He incited an insurrection. The actual trial is going to begin on February 9th. And so we have just a couple of weeks, and this hopefully will give some time for more evidence. It's just coming out every single day. So I think that we in time will actually have an opportunity for a good strong trial with good strong evidence that to make a case for why Trump should be impeached and Trump should be found guilty. He should be convicted. He should not be able to run for office ever again. The other thing I want to talk about, and I don't know if folks actually saw this, but the New York Times wrote an article about Joe Biden because Joe Biden wore a Rolex watch to the inauguration. And the Rolex watch that he wore actually cost $7,000. Now imagine that a $7,000 a watch that costs $7,000, and that's not even like the high end of what Rolex watches can cost. I mean, sometimes you could have a 5-figure watch, right? So that wasn't the point. But I actually found out about this on Twitter, because there were so many people in my timeline who were doing whataboutisms comparing Biden to Trump. Well, Biden has a Rolex, but Trump has this. And but Trump, right? And they were basically trying to defend Biden for wearing the Rolex. So I was curious. So I actually went to the article and I read the New York Times article to see what are they actually trying to say about him. And they were saying, because if you think about, and we talked a little bit about this the last time, that this is all choreographed. It wasn't that he showed up in a Rolex and no one, he didn't have anyone telling him or styling him. He decided to wear a Rolex. He was trying to make a statement. Now, was that a faux pas? Probably, when you're talking about the fact that people are starving and they can't feed their families because of coronavirus and all the layoffs, wearing the watch, is that the best decision, or is that a Marie Antoinette moment? I think that people were reading it as that the New York Times was saying that that was a Marie Antoinette moment. But in fact, when you read the full article, basically what the New York Times was arguing was that Joe Biden is not trying to be the everyman that people expected him to be, because if you think about the other contemporary presidents, obviously Trump doesn't count because he has a gold bathroom, so he's always over the top. But Obama had just a $500 watch. George Bush had a Timex watch or something like that, which was like $50. And they were considered the everyman. That was the purpose of their watches. And here comes Biden with this Rolex. And what the New York Times was saying was like, he's not trying to be the everyman. He's trying to say he's the he-man. He's somebody that can overcome, somebody who's, the true American dream. Because you can go from having nothing, being dirt poor, to actually becoming president and affording a $7,000 watch. And whether or not that is a good argument for him to make, I think is up for debate. But what I want to talk more about is that what we have to do is to stop comparing Biden to Trump to justify anything that Biden does or could do that we think is incorrect. Because Trump is not a measure for a good president. He was the absolute worst, not only worst president, but pretty much worst human being that you can ever imagine. And we have to have these higher standards for our elected officials, the people that we vote for. We have to hold them to a higher standard. And the American dream is a fallacy of meritocracy. And no, not everybody is going to be able to buy a $7,000 watch. Not everybody's going to be able to become president. And we do have a situation where we do have people starving, unable to feed their families. And that is insensitive. So he needs to do better. Sorry, but that's just the truth. And we can't keep doing that. Now, who else? The other thing I want to say about Biden is, until we get a vaccine, Biden needs to come down on the side of teachers. And there's this debate right now about whether or not teachers should actually be forced to go back to school now that now that we have a vaccine and money is supposed to be going out there and there's health recommendations. Should teachers actually be forced to go back to school? And Biden's kind of like, oh yeah, he's not really coming out and saying anything, probably because his wife is an educator and he's waiting for, and also he's only been in office for 5 days. But the reality is that in Cobb County, Georgia, there were 2 teachers that died the same day, both of coronavirus. Dana Johnson and Cynthia Lindsay. They both died on the same day. So we can't, and that's just one story, but there's so many teachers that have died, that have lost their lives to the virus. And right now we're not ready. We're just not ready. We don't have the precautions. We don't have the PPE. We don't have the sanitation. It's particularly in schools where there is just a lack of resources. So we have to hold that line until we make sure that everybody can be safe. And I actually got an email just asking me, like, what do I want to do for the fall? And I'm like, I don't want to go back until I know that the vaccine is widespread and that there's safety precautions and that there's money. That there's money out there to make sure that schools are safe for us. So I think we should all kind of hold that responsibility. So now, the other person that kind of made the news that when we think about old white men is Bernie Sanders. And actually, I think Bernie got the Grumpy Old Man Award. He actually, there was a meme of him, with his mittens sitting, like kind of with his mask and his mittens sitting. And that meme showed up everywhere. It was actually the game that you could play where you type in the address and Bernie will show up, and it was hilarious. It was very funny. If you actually typed in the meme and got Bernie to show up somewhere, hey Amila, welcome. I was like, where are you? I know you had said you were gonna come, so shout out to you. It's good to see you there. And yes, thank you, Rita, for wishing Sadiq a happy birthday. Yeah, so if you did look at that meme, but somebody said something that really stood out to me about the Bernie deal. And it was that, wow, if you think about the inauguration and all of this wonderful Black girl magic, which we're going to get to, why is Bernie all grumpy and whatnot? And all this attention. So then what they didn't say, which I'm going to say, is Bernie put together a sweatshirt with a copy of that meme of him, and it's sold out, right? It's sold out in like a day or a couple hours or less. And I'm sorry, but don't spend your money on a Bernie meme unless you're actually spending. If you bought that sweatshirt and you also bought a copy of Amanda Gorman's book, then okay. But why are we giving money to that when we should be supporting Black girl magic? Why would we do that? Why would we support grumpy old Bernie when we should be supporting Black girl magic? So the purpose of our work is to Unhidden Voices is to share the experiences, the voices, the stories, and promote of Black folks. And primarily we're starting with Black women. And next month, beginning next week, we are going to be focusing on Black women artists. And this is an inspiration. This is something very dear to my heart. And our first artist is a poet. Her name is Reina Leon, and this is a copy of her book, Boogeyman Dawn. So order this book. One of the things I like to tell this story. So when I was a little girl, my great aunt Helen used to send us every single year. She would send us fruitcake for Christmas. Every year she would send a fruitcake for Christmas, and it would come in a tin can that was red, and then the fruitcake would be inside, and it would just come in the mail, and we would, when we were kids, and we would eat it every year, and that happened every single year. And then one day she passed away, and no more fruitcake. But when we got the fruitcake when we were kids, we were like, fruitcake? Oh, whatever. But I ate it. I wouldn't have probably never had fruitcake if it wasn't for Aunt Helen, right? So this is what I ended up doing a couple years ago in honor of Aunt Helen. Was for Black History Month, I started sending books by and about Black folks to the kids in the family. So every Black History Month, I would share the list and I'll say, pick out the book you want. And I would just buy them books and send them out. And I'm going to do that again this year. But this year also, we have some books that we're going to be, books like this. So for the teens in our lives, send this out. So send this out to, and they don't have to be too. I'm doing it obviously to my family, which is a Black family, but you don't have to be a Black person to buy this book, right? And send this out to read it yourself, and gift it to someone else you love, right? And let's support Black girl magic. Let's do that. The other thing is children's books. So one of our guests is Janae Brown Wood, and she's a children's book author, and I'm gonna send like my grandson some of her books and other kids in our lives. So let's do that. Let's honor and respect and show some love and give our money. Put your money where your mouth is, okay? So we cannot talk about Black Girl Magic without starting off with talking about a little bit of wine berry plum. So this right here, and by the way, if you can notice the decor, I'm trying to just reflect the beauty, the majesty, the queenliness of Michelle Obama at the inauguration. Okay? Can we get some love for Sister Michelle? Wasn't she doing her thing? I mean, just look at this. And so I read the article written by her stylist. And her stylist said the color is called wine berry plum. And I was just like, well, you know, I couldn't come up all the way with the wine berry, but you know, I did a little something. I tried, Michelle. She looks so fabulous. She looks so fabulous. And when I first saw her, I thought it was like a jumpsuit, but it's separate. Can you imagine a turtleneck, the pants, the coat, you know, just, oh my gosh. So I was watching CNN, and Don Lemon was on with Nia Malika Michelle, and Nia Malika is another journalist, a Black woman journalist, and Don was talking about, oh, and these other white folks, Chris Cuomo and some other white people, and Chris Cuomo said something to the effect of like, oh, you know, I saw something on Twitter and they were saying that she was laid, and I don't know what is laid. What is laid? So then Dawn is like, oh, I have nieces, and my nieces said that laid means that her hair was laid. And then he starts describing how her hair was done. And Nia Malika basically was just pointing out just that Michelle slayed. She slayed, okay? It's just the guy's truth. And she said she has a 10-month-old, and she was just trying to get her 10-month-old to pay attention, you know, all hail the queen. So, no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, this right here, that's Black girl magic. Okay, she showed and proved, and there's a picture of her pointing at Kamala Harris. So now we got to show the second installation of Black girl magic. So let's now listen to this. Before we get started on here, I have to say something. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, you had one job, and her name is Kamala, not Kamala or whatever you called her. It's Kamala, and it's just basically the word comma and the word la, Kamala. And her stepkids call her Mama La. So Mama La, Kamala. Okay, let's get it right. Cause I'm like, good gracious. But you know, she showed and proved. She corrected it, and she kept stepping because she's just gracious. So we have to watch it, right? We have to watch it. So let's watch it, and we're watching the whole thing because this is a monumental moment, and so we have to give it up for this moment. Okay.
To be part of America is a historic moment of firsts. To administer the oath to our first African American, our first Asian American, and our first woman vice president, Kamala Harris, it is my great privilege to welcome to the inaugural stage the first Latina to ever serve on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
So watch it. Listen, listen, listen. It's Kamala.
Remain standing for the oath of office, followed by musical honors.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear
Kamala Davy Harris, solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I would bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. Yeah, that was just when it happened, I was just in such tears. And if you think back to what we began talking about, it's just everything that so many have sacrificed. So many have sacrificed to have a moment like this in history. And Sister Sonia actually sent us this. It's a picture, and I didn't get a chance to upload it, but it basically was a look at all of the white men who have been presidents or vice presidents throughout history, and basically pointing out that if you think about it, like at this point in time, this was when she would have been enslaved, and at this point in time, this is when she would have first been able to vote, and then this point in time is when she would have first been able to get a bank account. And I think it was when Nixon was president that Black women could get a bank account. Like, I didn't even know that, and now you actually have someone who is the vice president of the United States. That is monumental. That is historical. That is what Sam Cooke was talking about. He actually was singing about in 1963 segregation in the South. His lyric says that he goes downtown and they tell him don't hang around. That is segregation. That is what he's singing about. Hank Aaron said when he broke Babe Ruth's record, they sent him death threats. And last time we had this conversation and we were talking about the death threats that so many of us, not like I haven't received death threats, thank God, but I did just receive, well, I guess you could call it that. Somebody had made some kind of crazy comment on a YouTube post of me and my mom and talking about, well, you should just go ahead and die then. Yeah, that's not a threat to my life, but it's crap. It's racist. And so these people don't want to see us succeed. They don't want to see a Black woman and South Asian woman as the vice president of the United States. But we know that a change is going to come. And we have to continue to do the work. We have to continue to do the work. And we have to hold these folks accountable. So you can't get away with it. You can't just let them, like we voted for them and then everything they do is fine because we are just so nervous. We don't want. No, you have to have a high standard because they are your people. because you voted for them. You have to hold them and make them accountable to the demands of making this society better and make it work for all of us. It has to work for all of us, because right now it just works for a very few of us. It just works for a very few of us, and those very few don't want to give up anything. It's hoarding. That's what's happening. It's hoarding. They're hoarding all of it. And we have to change it. We have to change it. And we have to feel inspired to change it. And what can inspire us? The thing that is most inspirational is the magic, the Black girl magic. So, the last but not the least. Oh, I'm telling you, when I saw her, I did not. I look at this beautiful queen. Okay. Oh my God. This is just, oh, the splendor in the grass. Okay. Just, oh, everything. And then they called her name and she comes out and just so regal. And I was just like, and look, red. Okay. I'm honoring Amanda. Amanda, I love you, girl. I love you. I love you so much. I know you, but I love you. I just think, oh, thank God for you. Thank God for your artistry. Thank God for your poetry. So we're going to listen to it. We're going to listen to it because we have to. We have got to. We got to honor this woman by listening to her work.
Isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
Victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. That is victory, and that is magic. That is utter, beautiful clarity and magic. And I have to say, if you haven't watched the interview between Anderson Cooper and Amanda Gorman, please go watch it. Please go watch it. I just think you will enjoy it so much. It was such a beautiful interview. And this was just absolutely, yes, purpose. Thank you, Amila, purpose. Yes. This interview, what I loved about it was she revealed some things about herself. Like, for example, she revealed that she has had a speech impediment in which she was not able to recite the R's, and certain consonants would just drop off of her word. And she taught herself how to speak by watching Hamilton. By watching Hamilton. And in her poem, she actually has a couple of things that she wrote that are nods to Hamilton. And she tweeted at Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he responded, and she was like, "Did you catch what I said about Hamilton?" And she told Anderson Cooper that she learned how to say R's by listening to Leslie Odom. Leslie Odom plays Raymond Burr, and she said, "Raymond Burr, sir." And she was like, I just kept saying, I followed his rap, and I would repeat it after and after and after. And I was like, if I can get it, if I can get all those R's. And if you listen to this poem, not only listen to it, the poem is called The Hill We Climb. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I told you that we're doing the Multicultural Education Conference, and the theme of the conference is Lifting as We Climb. So here we have it. Here we have it. The majesty of it, the serendipity of it, the climb, and that we recognize, and she recognizes the climb and the need for the climb, that we have to climb out of it. And that is from our ancestors, Black women magic. And she has it, and we have it, and we are climbing out of this mess. We are climbing out of it so that we can see a victory. And that's the victory. The victory is that no more division. We can't have division. But one way that we will be able to overcome the division is by holding each other accountable to that tomorrow that we want to see. That tomorrow that we want to see. And not letting people get away with any bullcrap. So one way that we can do that is don't give your money to no Bernie Sanders meme BS. Buy this woman's book. You can pre-order it. It comes out September 21st. That is where you put your money where it's more deserving and necessary, right? Celebrate. Let's celebrate this artistry. And I think one of the things that I've seen so many folks talking about this, and it kind of really, and I'm an educator, so I get it. But people were basically saying, there's an Amanda Gorman at every urban high school throughout the country. And if only people would have provided an opportunity to listen and resources for the humanities, then absolutely Black magnificence. Yes, 100%. That if we would have provided a opportunity to these urban areas, then you would find so many Black artists. And that is true, 100%. And I don't find any fault with that. I don't disagree with that. But I also want to recognize that each and every one of us has a contribution to make. And some of us just exude the magic and you don't get to be a poet laureate and the first youth poet laureate without being magnificent. Okay. So let's name that magnificence and give her props also. Because I think part of what happens when we say like, well, everybody can be Amanda. No, everybody can't be Amanda. There's only one Amanda Gorman. Just like there's only one Amanda Norris. And one of the things I always tell people when they say, oh, there's so many fish in the sea. Yes, there may be other fish in the sea, but there's only me, right? I'm this fish. So, if you want to try and go catch another fish, go on, but you're never going to catch this one because I'm it. There's only one, right? And so that's the deal, There's only one Michelle Obama with the, oh my God, now I'm going to Wineberry Plum. There's only one Wineberry Plum, We got to give it up for these queens. We have to acknowledge them. There was only one Hank Aaron. Do you think there's another one coming around? No, that's why you got to give them their flowers. And that was something that one of my students, my research assistant, Igosa said, give them their flowers. Let's give it up. Let's give these flowers. Let's give it up. Give it up because it's deserved, because it's needed. And when we think about it, when we name it, we have to name it. We have to name it. We have to, because otherwise, time is just going to pass us by. And what changes have we made? Nothing? No, that can't be. We can't allow it. So we have to do it. We have to do it. We have to celebrate, and rejoice in it. This is a moment of rejoice, and we have to be grateful because it's never. My mom said this. We were watching the inauguration, and she said, "This moment will never happen again." And Ossie was like, "Yes, it will." And she was like, "No, it will not. It will not happen. This moment will never happen again with these people, with this time where Kamala Harris becomes the first Black woman vice president. No." And I was like, and she was saying that because I was crying. I was crying because I was thinking about my dad too. And how, oh my God, I wish she would have lived to see this day. It's just special. It's absolutely special. And we have to name that, right? We have to. So, because I think about one day when he used to tell me so many stories and about the experiences that he had and growing up, again, born in the 1930s and lived in a segregated South in Texas, went to a one-room school. He always used to say that he marched 10 miles in the snow and all that stuff. And my mom, everything that she, growing up in segregation, experiencing that, moving out here to California to raise us, and look how far we've come in these generations. And one of the things that, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I do my final thank yous, is that I recognize now that there were so many things that my parents' generation tried to instill in me and that I tried to instill in my kids, but things got lost, right? So this is another reason why, tying it back to what I was saying about the movie, is it's an entry point. No, it's not perfect, but it's an entry point for us to learn something new, especially for our kids, right? Because like my son had heard about Malcolm X, obviously, but now I ended up, for his birthday, he said he was like, "Mom, I want books for my birthday." So I bought him pretty much, I think like 10 of my most favorite books. And one of them was Autobiography of Malcolm X. And so one Mother Mary, one Queen of Sheba, one Amanda. That's right, Amila. Don't downplay her accomplishments. Celebrate them. This is, oh, yes, thank you. Because one of the things that is so real and so true, it's like I found out Tasneem is graduating on May 14th. And Sadiq is graduating this year. Tasneem's getting her BA. Sadiq's getting his AA. My kids are graduating. Again, these are accomplishments. These are things to celebrate. These kids are mine. Leilani, Sadiq, Tasneem, Asia, all one-of-a-kind gems. Zachariah, the best grandson on the face of the earth as far as I'm concerned. He's my one and only, And am I going to be like, oh, you can find a Zachariah? No. No, there's one Zachariah That's my baby boy. Okay. So, oh, thank you. I said, all right. I'm trying to just shout out the Wineberry Plum and the red for Amanda. And gotta give it up for my queens. Okay, so I was about to lose my train of thought, but what was my train? Okay, my train. Oh, about the generational thing. So the movie One Night in Miami, what I love about it is it opened up a door, right? So after I watched that movie, then I went and watched the documentary. There's a documentary on Netflix called The Two Killings of Sam Cooke, and it talks about not only his murder, which he was, murdered in a tragic way, but also the way that they tried to kill his musical career because he actually decided to become more of a protest artist. And after he made that song that we introduced at the beginning, a change is going to come, and he started doing more artistry that way. And he was also trying to provide Black artists with an opportunity to have control of their masters, and and to develop a union. That was pushed back against. That was something that was he lost his life for, and he lost his life because of the work he did. And I learned so much because that movie was like, it piqued my interest, and then I watched the documentary, and right, very similarly, it piqued Sadiq's interest in Malcolm X. And so I had bought one of the books that I bought him was Autobiography of Malcolm X, but I gave him so many books. Then he was like, I don't know which one to read first. And so after he watched the movie, I said, which book do you want to read first? And Sadiq was like, Autobiography of Malcolm X. So thank you, Regina King, for directing the movie. Thank you, Malcolm X. Thank you, Hank Aaron. Thank you, Amanda Gorman. Thank you, Kamala Harris. Thank you, Michelle Obama. Thank you for all of you who joined us tonight. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. Click the bell so you can get notifications. We are going to, again, next week, we're going to be featuring Reina Leon. If you missed it, her book is here. It is called Boogeyman Dawn. Purchase this for Black History Month. What are we going to do? We're going to celebrate Black artistry. We're going to buy books and resources by and about Black people and share them with the children and family members, people in your lives. If you are a Black person, these books are a mirror. They're a reflection of your experience. If you are not, they're a window. And we need more windows that are not like dirty windows, right? We need to clean the windows. And the other day I was listening to, I think it was, Unwritten. One of my colleagues played that song as a song that's inspirational. And she says, open up the dirty window. Very much so. Open up the dirty window. Don't buy books about Black people written by white folks or other folks that aren't Black. Buy books about each group written by the people that are in that group, because you're going to get a more clear depiction of their story from them. I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you so very much. And absolutely 100%. It was just been my pleasure. And I love these. I love them, love them, love them, love them. So we're going to keep doing them. Keep joining us live. We're going to do them at the end of the month and kind of prepare for the next month and talk about, the goings on in the news. And just, I'll give you my take on what's happening. All right. And I really appreciate you for joining us. Thank you, Sadiq. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Sister Amila. It's just been my pleasure, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And have a good night. Bye.